Now, why am I not seeing that on my screen?
We saw it.
Did you
Okay.
go on your screen?
Yeah.
Yeah,
we'll
I
have
think
to
it
take
was
off.
switch. I think
Okay.
You guys want to do speaker review in here?
yes, you can pin it.
Dear Lord, we thank you for the gift of technology and we thank you for the gift of patience. We thank you for the creativity, the initiative and the generosity of this congregation and their willingness to share of your bounty at this special time of year. And we thank you for the ability to get together from points far and near on a weekly basis. In Jesus' name we pray, amen.
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 Okay, everybody knows our speakers today, Bonnie and Elizabeth, who have been doing the alternative gift programs so long that the mind of man runneth not to the contrary. And we've got some new programs this year that Bonnie highlighted in her minute for mission a couple of weeks ago.
Right.
And the technology has not changed from last year, but it's always worth running over it so that you can see it. Bonnie?
Good morning, and as I was entering the room, and now on my phone, I see that there's some people who are still saying though that it's not working for them. So we may have people who will be joining us, but it's our really great opportunity
Speak up.
to speak with you
That's good.
about this program. It represents a sacred commitment of the spiritual gift of many of the people in this congregation over 20 years. And it's really the opportunity that we welcome every season to look at what we have accumulated and to introduce new programs. So the program is Alternative Gifts. For those of you who will be watching this later in curiosity and inquiry, it is a signature mission at Bradley Hills and homegrown in this congregation and specifically set up to be devoted to addressing inequities, to restoring justice, and to creating vital partnerships with struggling communities. So each of these efforts starts as small as a mustard seed, and many of them have grown with partnership and nurturing and communication and creativity and innovation to establish well-rooted presence in the soils of the communities where they are cultivated. So today we are going to introduce the programs to you. The irony is that we often, before the pandemic, we were struggling to make people in the building able to use the Zoom, and now we're getting people in the Zoom to try to work with what we have in the building. So we are truly hybrid. So we work with and refine these contacts over the course of the year. It is a ministry. And we wanted to invite anybody who's listening, anybody who's a member of our congregation who is interested in this, interested in developing and growing it, to join us and to know that it is it's a labor of love, but it is something that we are really rewarded with as it grows and as the participation expands. So these 20 programs are introduced most efficiently now online. You go to the Bradley Hills Presbyterian Church .org website, and across the top you see tabs. The Serve tab is where many of the mission programs are, and all the way to the bottom of the Serve tab.
Are you showing that now?
I'm not showing it I haven't shared my screen.
Okay.
But I was going to go directly to the PowerPoint that I am encouraging people to use. So share this screen now. And I will put this up online, and we will then turn to my partner to begin to introduce these programs as they show.
Go to the whole screen.
There we go.
Good morning, friends. I'm hoping you can hear me all right. Is that all right? Are you able to hear me?
Almost.
Yeah.
All right, I'll speak up. We're not going to highlight every single program, but we're going to say a few things as we go for ones that seem relevant at the moment for specific reasons. They're all relevant all the time, but what struck me as Bonnie and I were preparing for today is that all of this is about stories. It's about stories of the people who are recipients. It's about how they change our stories. It's about the story of the church. It's about the story of each of you and what you choose to support, what you choose to learn about, who you pray for. It's all intertwined. So it really becomes the story of this church community and takes on a life of its own. Just the first example of that is with a wider circle. I don't remember how many years ago it was. I would guess about 7 now, but Kate Wise came to see me when we were working out in the gathering space at the tables and started to talk to me about a wider circle. And she was saying that she was volunteering there and how meaningful it was to her. And she suggested that we add it. And there were a lot of younger families in the church who were already supporting wider circle, so it made sense. But her story was about beds, about mattresses, and about the early goal of a wider circle was to make sure every child has their own bed. And she was volunteering there, and she shared with how significant it was to her to see the effect it had on a family when they got to leave with a bed for each child. That was just a very simple thing, but it changes the trajectory of the story of the family's life and shows you how a simple contribution can flip something and change your own story because you chose to do that. So I'm going to hand this back over to Bonnie as we go through this, and we'll go back and forth a bit.
One of our volunteers was privileged to present the Christmas gifts that had been delivered last Sunday to the church at Dennis Avenue. And as she told me about delivering them to the social workers who would be privileged to give them to the parents and the children, tears came to her eyes and she was choked up saying, it's such a privilege to be part of this because they are thrilled to be seen and heard. They know that we are providing assets and funding for them that they cannot get as with their immigrant status from government programs that are the most significant contributors to Dennis Avenue. But we have a special client fund. So giving to the Dennis Avenue Client Fund supports not just what we do at Christmas time, but it's what we do throughout the year to provide emergency assistance. So that is an ongoing and a blessed part of this program. And much of the same is true of the Women's Collective. Women's Collective has been a partner from the very beginning with us.
My husband got to be the person who helped deliver the gifts to Women's Collective this year there on New York Avenue Northeast. And as we were talking about Women's Collective at home, it was striking me how things have changed so much for everyone in the last few years. But when you stop and you consider the stories of these women and how very carefully they have to live anyway. And then when you tie that in to this COVID era, and now COVID is easing, but they have to continue to be very, very careful because they're so vulnerable in terms of their immune systems. And now we're overlaying it with the flu and we're overlaying it with RSV. And yet these are the same women who, just to survive, often have to work 2 or 3 jobs, and they don't have cars by and large. So every time they're stepping out to provide for their families, they're exposing themselves to the world. And those layers of complexity really struck me compared to my simple life and what they deal with on an everyday basis. So we try to support them. We do the holiday gifts to them, but we also provide financial support. And just as a tiny other example, when we were delivering gifts the last 2 years, it had to be done so carefully. They were having to, they used to have holiday parties, instead they had to make appointments with every single family. The gifts had to be pre-sorted. One family at a time would have their gifts set out in the hallway. And so by appointment, they could come pick up their gifts and not even step into the office, and then go home and take the gifts home to their children. So that just gives you an idea of how different it is.
The alternative gift supports the summer mission trips. And many of you supported the summer mission trip at the chili cook-off. And one of our longstanding programs is the Village Health Teams program in Buyobo, Eastern Uganda. And we have June on Zoom to talk about the impact, just briefly about the impact that our continuing giving and partnership with the Village Health Teams in Uganda has, what kind of difference it's made.
Zoom, June?
June is on Zoom.
Hi, everyone. My name is June Chakobie. So Bradley Hills has been supporting the health program from, it's almost 2 decades now, since Bunny and Joy Panagides traveled to Uganda for 3 months and did a health survey there. It is a village where my mom was born and grew up. I just used to visit there for Christmas. The program is pretty big. It had gone up to 100 village health workers, and they're now down to 88 for various reasons, demarcations. They're splitting up the village and giving different names, and so you can't go over to another district or county. However, the program has made a lot of progress. In this year, it has been pretty low key. 1 minute.
Can you turn off the water, please? Turn off the water.
Sorry, it's a little bit of background noise. So they just sent me an update as of right now as to what is going on. The good things this year is that they elected 50% of the executive is now female. And then there is, they participated in polio vaccinations this year and the COVID vaccinations. They did not have any COVID cases, so that was a big success. And then the health center in the area is now working together with the health workers in that they are collaborating in what they do with, they're going through the health workers. When the health workers recommend that they need to go visit a doctor, they go to the health center as opposed to traveling down to the main city in Mbale, which would take them almost a whole day. So that is a big upgrade to what we were doing before, where they had to go down. They're now just going to the health center, and the health center is providing antenatal counseling. So the pregnant women are going there for checkups. So that is a very big change to what we have been doing before. Otherwise, they are extremely grateful for what Bradley Hills has done for them. And they also are working with the women's microfinance which is they share the main building with in the village. And so, yeah, they're just very grateful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, June. It's a joy to see the progress there, really.
So just briefly, in terms of Eden, which is the garden at Faith Presbyterian in Anacostia, there is a way you can further tie your story to the story of the garden and the story of the community. I'm told that this spring there'll be an opportunity for church families to grow seedlings, healthy seedlings, preferably organic seedlings of specific kinds of plants, which will be shared with the congregation, but to grow these seedlings and nurture them at home. And then those seedlings will be transplanted into the garden in Anacostia. This is a missing link for them, and it's a direct way that we can be of help. And then you can consider whether or not you actually want to put your hands in the soil of the garden alongside them in Anacostia. But this is a really nice connection. So pay attention to that as the year progresses.
And I'd just like to add to that, that the support that goes to this garden helps to hire recently released young men who have been in prison and are looking for employment. And they are learning many of these skills. They're enjoying the acceptance of the people who are in the community who appreciate their work, and they're getting a start. So we are not we're not following the instruction to visit in prison, but we are acknowledging the need for those who have been in prison to be reintegrated. And this is an important part of the actual contributions to go to this program. Many of you are familiar with New Story Leadership that brings Palestinian and Israeli young people together in the United States who are prevented from being together and crossing boundaries in many occasions in Israel and Palestine. It's been a very successful program. They have hired a director now, and much of our support goes to keep that program going and to get it started up again after the pandemic. In Gaza, we have a lot of support from the congregation and from many donors to the Gaza Health Center, the hospital there. And it has survived many of the bombardments. It has provided emergency and ambulance services. And donations here are grateful. We've had in this library representatives from Gaza Health Care and the Al-Ahli Hospital giving us reports and expressing appreciation to us. Last week, when I spoke to the congregation, I rejoiced at the delight that the young kids who have been born with deformities feel when they're able to walk normally and become contributing members of the society that they are part of in Mexico. That's really something to celebrate. Do you have comment on this one?
So as we sat in the mission meeting, I believe it was last year, we were looking for ways to respond as a congregation to the increases in hate crimes across the board, but also specifically responding to the hate crimes against our Asian brothers and sisters. And that's a tough one because you kind of can't be everywhere at once, and we can all learn to speak out. But we found this with the help of Rebecca, and it ended up speaking to me in a way that I hadn't expected, because a couple of years before, I had been paying very close attention to the housing issues and the housing shortages in the district. And there's a core of housing in Chinatown where many hundreds of low-income Asian immigrants live. And suddenly there was a developer who was, if you were in Ethiopia with Bonnie's friends, they would be calling it a land grab. Here it is, they were trying to get a hold of these buildings and demolish them and create a much higher level of income source of housing. And I had been praying about this because I just felt like this is really important to not displace all these people and to have them be able to live as a community where they feel comfortable and have some form of mutual protection as they make their way through life. And as it turned out, I didn't know that the prayer was answered, and it was answered because of the Asia Pacific American Legal Resource Center, APALRC, because they partnered with a major law firm in the district, and they were successful at protecting all of that housing and not having it turn over. They advocate, when people come to them, they advocate in whatever way is appropriate to the individual. They have access to multiple languages so that people can feel comfortable in their communications. It's just really important, and it's something none of us ever knew anything about. So take a look at this and keep it on your radar and see if it's a story you want to be a part of.
We welcomed Jen Out Chorus to Bradley Hills last, about
3 weeks
two
ago,
or
maybe.
3 weeks ago. And it was a wonderful experience to be in the sanctuary with them. They were, when we first started supporting them, their parents were driving them to music rehearsal. And we supported a bus to take them together so that they could bond and that they could have the experience of joyfully participating in something, getting to know each other, you know, and really forming a collective. And it really worked. This is the kind of thing we mean by a seed that grows and takes root. It has made a big difference, and we have continued to support them. We took a collection for them then, but we support them through this program, and they are part of the line item budget for Bradley Hills. We've really been rewarded to give them a voice and help their voice to connect with the larger community. They do perform very regularly, and they are experiencing a sense of welcome and belonging, which is referenced here. The program for Oromia, Educating Girls, has been also one that we followed for about 14 or 15 years, long enough that some of the early kids who were pulled out of elementary school in order to work on the farm, take care of a sick relative, have actually gotten the support through a stipend, through a mentor, through support for their community. The communities get support if they keep the girls in school, so there's motivation there. And 3 this year have achieved their medical, they finished their medical education and are practicing medicine. I had thought they were doing a kind of internship, but the director of Real said, no, they're practicing medicine directly now. They are in the clinic, so it's made a big difference. And the next one we wanted to introduce is CASA, which is a new program this year. And one of the members of the board of directors of CASA who brought this program to us is here with us, Susie Waltzer. Do you want to be here or on?
Good morning, whatever's easiest.
Okay. We'll do that.
Excuse me, it's so wonderful to hear about all of these fantastic organizations. I wish I had brought a pen, I want to take notes. But thank you so much.
PowerPoint's on the website.
That's great, yes, and I looked at it. I just haven't had a chance to really review all of them, but I will for sure. But thank you so much for inviting me this morning to talk about an organization that is definitely near and dear to my heart, Voices for Children, Montgomery County. And the organization trains and supports volunteer advocates called CASA. So often we're referred to as the CASA program, court-appointed special advocates who advocate for children in foster care. And I served as a CASA beginning in 2014 for 4 years and saw 2 cases to completion. And then I joined the board as vice president and am now a member. And through these direct experiences, I can personally attest to what a fantastic organization this is. And I am just so appreciative that you added it to the alternative giving program this year. So thank you so much for that. Just briefly about CASA, for those who aren't familiar, as I mentioned, the mission is accomplished through recruiting, training, and providing ongoing support and supervision of volunteers. And these are trained volunteers, and I, having gone through the training, can tell you it is fantastic training and it is very rigorous. There is a lot of it, but it is very well worth it. But they are actually officially appointed by the court. And why that's so important is because not only do they meet with the child, but they're also able to meet with everybody involved in the case and really learn about the case and then make extremely informed recommendations to the court. And the first case that I was on was a sibling set, and it was a toddler and a infant. And while they were adorable and I loved meeting with them, they were in a wonderful placement, which was great. But what was really important was that I was able to talk to all of the people involved in their case, therapists. I was able to observe the visitations with parents and make sure that where they ended up was the best, a safe, permanent home for them. And just a quick statistic, each year over 400,000 children in the United States experience abuse or neglect, unfortunately. And that brings with it a lot of changes, a lot of trauma to those children. And children in foster care with a CASA are much more likely to find a permanent home, succeed, and are 50% less likely to re-enter foster care, which is very important. So we have set a goal as an organization. I think right now about half of the children in foster care have a CASA, and our goal is to have all of the children in foster care in Montgomery County appointed a court-appointed special advocate by 2026. So the support of the church is greatly appreciated, and thank you again for allowing me to join this one.
Thank you. I'm sure all of you on the Zoom are familiar with the program for scholarships to foreign Christian colleges. So this has been extremely well supported by the congregation, and actually the contributions to scholarships through alternative gifts have excelled the scholarships that come from the proceeds of the endowment, which is very close to $100,000. So it has supplied enough funding for 5 Christian students and 6 Christian students and 5 Muslim students. Some of these scholarships require more funds because the students are traveling a long distance, so that the funds support travel, books, housing, and tuition. And these girls go back to make a very big difference in their communities. Some of them get married and don't take professional jobs, but we're finding that many of them are raising their children, you know, with different attitudes and with new insight into the kind of interfaith relationships that are important to the future of that region. So we consider that to be a success.
I wanted to just add one comment in regard to the Asia Foreman Christian College program. In terms of our stories, we have Cindy Gear, who has been a long time member of the church and worked with us on mission. And she was insightful enough to take a step back and see the importance of connecting the women at Foreman to the women from her university in South Korea and set up some links for that. And that's not something that would ever occur to most people, but I thought that was something really special. And it becomes part of the Bradley Hill story because somebody chose to make that decision and make that happen. So moving on to the PDA disaster kits. Any of you who helped us on the disaster kit assembly day not long ago know that it was a great activity. It's a great group activity here in the church, but it's also a way for us to stop and think about the people who are immediately suffering from the result of a disaster. And sometimes receiving one of the kits that you've helped assemble here is the first visible sign they have of hope and the first visible sign they have of being loved and not forgotten. I think of it as Christ's hand is reaching out and offering you something concrete in terms of hope. It's a small thing, but it's a really big thing. And for those of you who don't know, Presbyterians are really known for excellent disaster relief. So make sure you stay connected to that mentally and in your prayers, and continue to participate in disaster relief wherever you can, even if it's as simple as putting together a child's school kid. So thanks for that.
We know from some testimony that we've received from Presbyterians who have participated in delivering these kits, many people are really shocked. You know, they've had big, beautiful homes, they've had closets filled with mops and rags and shovels, and they have none of that. So to receive a disaster kit, even if you had, you know, a $500,000 home, is as important as if you had, you know, a shack that was blown over in the wind. So it's really been amazing for people who have, you know, who have really not realized the extent to some of the extent that some of the assistance that they themselves have given in church actually come back to bless them. So Presbyterian witness underscores that. Bethesda Cares is, are you prepared for that one?
I'm doing the next one.
Okay, Bethesda Cares is a long-term program at Bradley Hills, and we have supported it through our mission program and through pledge giving. But we've also provided this opportunity for people to connect with Bethesda Cares by giving gifts in honor of people who are then made aware of what Bethesda Cares provides, which is services and facilities and meals. Bradley Hills is in the position of starting up the kitchen ministry that supports the Bethesda Cares program. Donations to this actually go to some of the more longer term needs, utility bills, partial rents, advice, you know, the mailbox, the things that you need when you don't have a place to hang your hat.
So I'm going to ask Alvin to bring us up to date on Bethesda Health. But first, just to remind all of you who don't know, Bethesda Health is really, just as Bethesda Cares is part of the Bradley Hills history and story, Bethesda Health is part of the Bradley Hills history and story. We were one of the founding churches, and perhaps the founding church, I'm not sure. The Fannings were absolutely key in the founding of Bethesda Health. And I would be willing to bet that some of the founding meetings took place in this room. It was founded in 1968. And Kay Fanning, who is the daughter of the Fannings who were founding members, is on the board today. So I'm turning it over to Alvin.
Thank you, Elizabeth. That was a great introduction. Most of you probably are already familiar with Bethesda Health. We provide emergency food and financial assistance to our less fortunate neighbors in the Bethesda, Chevy Chase, and parts of Potomac, Silver Spring, and Wheaton. Our major distinction is that we're an all-volunteer organization. We have about 60 volunteers, and we actually deliver the food to the clients' homes, which is a little different than some of the other food pantries. Up to 3 times a month, we will bring food to people's homes. We also provide financial assistance to help prevent evictions, cut off of utilities, or the inability to receive needed medicines. Our efforts on behalf of our clients are often rewarded with wonderful comments. One example, on a recent delivery, a driver met a young mom who spoke candidly, saying that her family had never been in this position until recently. It had been difficult for her to ask for help, but Bethesda Help made it easy. Everyone had been kind and understanding, never making her feel less for needing help. Our client wanted our driver to share that they are grateful to Bethesda Help, and they hope to pay it forward when they get back on their feet. This is the kind of story that we hear all the time. In this brief moment, it's almost impossible to share numbers, but this is history. A couple years ago, pre-COVID, we were serving about 2,800 clients a year, and now it's 6,800. That's how much it's gone up during the last couple years because of COVID, from 2,800 to 6,800. That's 136% higher, actually 236%. In terms of our expenses, we've tried to keep them down as best we can, but they're still twice what they were 4 years ago. And our income this year is only 25% higher than what it was 3 years ago. So we're going through a minor challenge at the moment. We will have a deficit this year, but during the last couple COVID years, people have been so generous that we did build up a bit of surplus. We're going to be okay. But yeah, this is a hard year for us because we're probably going to have a $40,000 deficit. So my summary to you is you have so many wonderful choices of how to offer gifts through this annual alternative giving program. If you feel you can allocate a small portion of your gifts to Bethesda Help, we and your neighbors will be deeply grateful for that. But you've got a lot of choices. And I'll end by saying, to tell you the truth, I obviously contribute directly to Bethesda Help myself, but my contributions to this program are going to number 24 so that the people organizing this program can decide where the money's needed the most. And I leave it up to them because they know all these groups better than I do. So I wish everybody will support this, and I thank you for this opportunity.
Alvin, do you mean 21?
21, whichever the last one is.
We don't want donations going to 24. There is no. But the Angel
Sorry
Gift-
about that.
The Angel Gift Tree Fund is the number 21. And we do take the donations and carefully allocate them so that the various programs receive enough support to make a difference. And then respond to particular needs as they come up through the year. I'll just say a couple of words about Friends Club. We have been part of Friends Club, and Friends Club has been part of Bradley Hills forever, it seems. And we see our friends now. I'm seeing my friends start to participate. And one of them has told me that when she brings her husband to the program, he is delighted. It changes his day when he knows that it's a Friends Club day. He participates for 4 hours. He has lunch. He has friendly relations with people he's met there. He's able to participate in the music and the games that they have. And when she picks him up, she asks, "What did you do today?" He doesn't remember the details, but he is thrilled, happy, and she's been able to go get a haircut, to get to go shopping, to have a little time to herself. So it has been a blessing to them. And just from that little vignette, you can see that it really does make a difference in people's lives. Another new program we have this year is Ukraine.
So this is another one for Presbyterian Disaster Assistance, but this is really on the ground help for primarily for the displaced persons in Ukraine. Some people, this story is because it's been going on, since February and before. It's the impact on the Ukrainians has just been horrendous. It's just I think if you pay attention, you know. And Presbyterian Disaster Assistance is very well situated for responding to needs on the ground in Europe, because they have very strong links to partners that have immediate access all across Europe. But they have excellent partnerships in Ukraine and in the countries where people have resettled, even if it's only for the short term. Most of the emergency assistance at this point that comes from PDA focuses on cash for food and other basic needs, but there has been housing assistance, assistance for psychosocial support and other kinds of things. So, of course, continue to pray for the end of this war, but if you can help, this is something to really consider. And the last one that I want to touch on before handing this to Bonnie for logistical issues is there's a new one, and then the name of it is Queerly Gathered. This one has really touched me, and I think it's going to be part of the future story of our church. We've worked hard on becoming a more welcoming church over the years and have made strides in that regard. But the truth of the matter is there's a tremendous number of people in the LGBTQ community who do not feel welcome in church. And Matt and one of his counterparts at another local church, Geneva Presbyterian, have come together and are launching Queerly Gathered. And it's an affirming Christian community. It's Bradley Hills is nurturing it and continuing to support Matt in his current role as our Christian educator works on this. And the church is supporting it in other ways, but it at this point, it is very much in need of seed money. There are opportunities to for financial growth and other forms of growth through grants and such, but having seed money and having a launch and having support at the beginning is really, really important. What I really want to say about this is, as if we're thinking about our own stories and the story of the church, I think by helping support this now, you help it become part of the story of the church down the road. Thanks.
Yes, this seed money will help qualify them to apply for other support through Presbyterian Church USA and other sources. And the funds go to rent, go to outreach programs that they have, go to what they need to nurture their gatherings. They're meeting once a month. So we already had a plug for number 21 from Alvin. Thank you very much, Alvin. This discretionary fund is used to supplement the program. So let me go back, and I'm going to show you how to use this. I'll go back to the first. This program is self-explanatory on the web. So if you go to bradleyhillschurch.org and to the Serve tab, you can click or you can search for alternative gifts. And this PowerPoint, that is a tool for contributing. It explains it, and we invite you to share it with other people, share it with friends, share it with those who may contribute. We want outside funds to also be supporting some of these programs. For example, you can download a gift card here that's printed on your computer and give that in honor of whoever you wish to give this for Christmas. You can then go into explore these programs. If you click on the program in the slideshow, it will take you directly to, let me pull this up. It will take you directly to the alternative gifts page on Realm. People don't have to be a member of Realm to do that. They can do it by just entering their credit card here.
They don't even have to be a member of the church.
That's right. They don't have to be a member of the church. That's correct. Let me see here. Here's what will come up when you click on any of those programs. You go to this page, you enter the amount of money that you want to give, you click down and can scroll to any of them, and then when you've entered your credit card information, you click continue. If you want to give to more than one program, just click give again another fund until you have a tally and exit. So this is fairly self-explanatory. It is self-explanatory. We want to remind you that you can go through these programs and let people know that you are interested to receive gifts from the alternative gift program instead of another sweater or scarf. You can also choose to give to people programs that you think will be meaningful to them and to have a conversation about that. And you can give to medical people, teachers, in honor of loved ones, people, professionals who have blessed your life, and those who have shown compassion to you. So we just want to remind you that to give these cards and gifts in honor of someone is a way to make not only a connection, but to highlight the different means and ways to extend grace. And we have actually have our own, we've chosen this particular translation, Matthew 5:7, to close with, which is, blessed are those who extend grace, for they shall discover the same warm compassion extended to them. So this is the spirit of the program, and we're happy to be here and to explain it. And if there are any questions, we'd be happy to take them.
Okay. Stop the screen share and we will get everybody up. Any questions? One of the things that really struck me in both watching the slideshow and with talking with Bonnie and Elizabeth earlier this week as we got ready was the care that has gone into the selection of these programs, not just because of the individual quality of the programs, but because of the very intentional variety of the programs. We have 2 programs that focus in Africa. We have one that focuses in South Asia. We have 2 that focus on addressing economic needs in the immediate Bethesda area. We have another one that focuses on the needs of children in the area. We've got international assistance through the Presbyterians and domestic assistance through the Presbyterians. There are programs here that will strike home for everybody. And it's a wonderful way. I've been the recipient of gifts this way, and they've been some of the most meaningful Christmas presents that I've ever received. And I regularly donate to several of these, and the people who receive them are always grateful. So I encourage you to look at what you have to give and to choose wisely and choose with your heart as well as your brain. Questions? Does everybody understand the mechanics of how to enter a gift?
Sorry, I need to go to church in a minute. May I ask something real quick? This is Brigitte. Yeah. I shared this with Bonnie at some point. I had a lot of trouble, but my computer just basically went on strike 3 times doing this. So what I ended up doing is printing out my list and sending a check to, and giving it with a check to Amy. So I just wanted to mention that as option if anybody else, rather than not doing it, there is another way, to do it. So, but you are all, and I've done it in the past, which and hadn't had any problems. So anyway, I just wanted to mention that.
Thank you. The church does accept checks made out to Bradley Hills Presbyterian Church, alternative gifts in the memo line. You can, there are order forms.
Yeah.
You can see the order form here.
And you can even print it out from the computer if you run into the same problem I did. I'd filled everything out, and then when I was gonna try and put my credit card in, things went crazy. So anyway, just.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's important.
Okay, sorry.
Except cash, I will say. There's that. And there are some people who are giving their year-end gifts and are designating them with checks that are coming in, that benefit of a tax deduction. So there's that too.
And we will be present today in coffee hour after church and next Sunday after church as well to help you navigate this if you need assistance.
Pretty good.
I think we've got it. It's 10:15. I think.
Thank
that's
you,
10:15,
everybody. Church.
For Joni?
Yes, Amy is always willing to take checks because when you charge things, then part of the, there's a fee to Bradley Hills. So she's really happy to process the checks and let all of it go to the worthy cause.
And
Thank
some,
you for that,
some
Joni.
people still are not comfortable putting credit card information online. So the check is a good way to solve that problem.
And easy to get it there from Omaha too.
We know you're really here and not in Omaha.
No, I wish. No, actually, I don't wish, but anyway, it's good.
You've always been such a supporter of this program, Joni. It's wonderful
Still.
to be one live.
Before we close, for those of you who are not aware, Pastor David's father suffered a stroke on Monday while he was at a Rotary Club meeting. He was in the ICU in Dayton, the last I heard. Pastor David has gone to Ohio to be with his dad. It's a pretty serious stroke. He's not able to speak and he's paralyzed on his right side. I have not heard a recent report on how the treatment and rehab is going. So please keep Pastor David in your prayers. He'll be in Ohio for the next week or two. So add an extra measure of prayer for Pastor Denise as she picks up David's work during this very, very busy season at church as well. And speaking of Pastor Denise, she will be speaking to us next week on one of our favorite theologians, Dietrich Bonhoeffer, and his views on Advent. I'll try to post on the emails that come out this week, the essay that she'll be referring to by Bonhoeffer. It's only about 4 or 5 pages. So it's worth a few minutes to read it so that you have some ideas of what's going to be addressed and you can start to gather your thoughts about it. But
And speaking of Pastor Denise, today is a celebration of her installation after church.
yes,
right?
yeah. You know, we installed her via Zoom because she had a very ill-timed case of COVID. But now that is over and we're going to celebrate her installation after church. And those of you in the area, please come on over. It would be nice to see you here. So blessings on everyone. We will see you next week and thank you all very much.
Bye.